Good morning. My name is Donna Marie Collins. I'm the hearing examiner that will be presiding over this morning's hearing. We are here for special exception request SEZ2023-00001 KW Electric open storage. All testimony and evidence that I accept during these hearings must be taken under oath. Therefore, I'm going to administer the oath to everyone in the room that will be speaking on the record. Do you swear or affirm the testimony and evidence you enter into the record will be the truth?
I do.
I am the final decision maker in this case. At the conclusion of this hearing, I'll take into account the staff report and all the backup documentation and your presentations, and I will be rendering a final decision, probably within a week or so. Thank you. I'm ready to begin.
Go ahead. Do I jump in? Okay. Morning, everybody. My name is Scott Bostrom. I am the owner of KW Electric. We're doing business as Kirkwood Electric. Been around Cape Coral for about 40 years. We were here a couple years ago on this parcel to remove the residential zoning and make it all commercial. And since that time, we've been working with Lee County Development on a development order to construct a building for our electric company that we plan on moving from Cape Coral to this location. And because of unknown costs that the county is having us do as far as widening the road, putting in sidewalk, doing a lot of additional improvements into the parcel, our costs have just skyrocketed on trying to develop this project. With various communications I've had with John Maulbacher, I believe is his name, with Lee County Development, he actually suggested that we do this project in phases. So he said maybe it's best to just go in, clear the lot, do what you want to do with your fencing, and then do that as phase one. Then years down the road, when things change, then add your building and then move on and do it in phases. So I thought that was a good idea, but now that I notice when you do a land clearing and want to put up a fence, it's considered storage, which requires a different zoning from the commercial zoning we have for doing our building.
Right, you need an additional.
Yeah, so in order to clear the lot, put up some fencing, and store some vehicles, and maybe have some income coming in the meantime over the next few years, so we can better afford to do the building, that requires this special exception zoning. And that's why we're here, to just get that special exception, so then we can go back to the county and then get the development order just to clear the lot and start the project and do it in phases. So that's kind of the quick synopsis, and I really don't have much more to add to the project here. I did send two attachments. This is one of them. The other attachment was with our building and site plan that we have with the county. And with that, you'll see it's the exact same layout, same retention area, same access in, same fence. It's just that our building is not. That's where our building would be, right there. So it's kind of the first phase of trying to
So
construct.
my question was, when I looked at, now naturally I'm looking at a much smaller version of the site plan in my materials, but the code requires an 8-foot high fence or wall when open storage is visible from a residential use, and 6 feet in height when it's visible from a street right away. And I noticed that you have residential homes across the street from you, and one in your northeast corner, and I wanted you to explain to me where this 8-foot fence actually is going to be.
Okay, we don't have that finalized yet. I think that's part of the development order. But just to point out here, the residence you're talking about is across the street here on Manny Road.
Right, there's like 2 or 3 houses there.
Yep, there's one here. This is an empty lot down here. There's a house here and a house here. I believe this gentleman in the audience has, this is his property. And then there's another residence here.
Right.
On this side, and then over here on this parcel is commercial with some signage. And being a retention area, I think our fencing is going to be in the front here, which is substantially back from the road.
Right.
And then I believe along here will be the
Well, that's the thing with open storage, it's very visible, which is why we have
Exactly.
you want to create that
Buffer.
compatibility
Exactly.
situation.
And I think, I'm trying to go, this has been a couple of years now, we've been trying to put this together. If I recall, the requirements for our building were pretty close to the same, of having a commercial building there with fencing. I think the fence might have to be 2 feet taller on the northern
Imagine
side.
if you're going to be doing a lot of storage of, once you do build your building, you'll have all your,
Exactly, our vehicles,
Vans or, yeah,
exactly,
work
all our
vehicles.
vehicles and trucks and trailers and everything like that will be in that westerly part of the parcel. So basically, it's
okay, so
developing this with everything we're gonna have without the building.
it's open storage for lease of boats and Winnebagos and things like that in the meantime? What,
Cars, trucks, boats, I don't think we're gonna have anything bigger than that, because there's just not enough room to have like large RVs or anything like that.
okay. So I did a site check prior to hearing. I noticed right now it's wooded, completely vegetated, right? It's not
Yeah, it's
cleared.
completely wooded, the whole parcel of ours, and then the southerly 2 parcels that go down to Evergreen are fully wooded. And we were just discussing, there's quite a bit of homeless that have been in there over the years, and there was a big fire back in May where the fire department had to come in, and they, I would guess it's at least a half an acre burned, partially of our property and then a little bit to the south.
Okay, now these notations here, are those markings for heritage trees? What are those markings there on the site plan? You've got like these circles with X's and boxes with X's?
Yep, those go back to the requirement that the civil engineers put together, that those trees are being removed with the X's. I believe the X
Oh,
through the
relocated?
circle is removed or relocated.
Oh, no, the square is relocate, the X is remove.
Okay, the X is okay.
Okay.
And that ties back in with the minimum requirements for vegetation and trees.
Anything further?
No, I don't have anything further.
Okay, thank you.
Questions,
Sean?
sir? Thank you.
Good morning. Sean Badamchian from the County Zoning. The request is to have an outdoor storage in North Fort Myers, within the North Fort Myers commercial corridor. The future land use designation of the property is intensive development, and the property used to have 2 distinct zoning. It was rezoned, back portion was RS1, and that back portion was rezoned, and now the entire property is community commercial, CC. And the request for outdoor storage requires a special exception in North Fort Myers, and that's why we are here. What they are proposing is, they call it phase 1, phase 2, but we don't have any conditions saying that within so many years they have to change it to building. So we are basically reviewing this as an outdoor storage project, not a phase 1 of anything else.
But a lot of improvements that they're going to be required to make for this will probably translate over to their
Yes,
ultimate.
yes, they have this in mind that they're going to have a building in the future. Mm-hmm. But our review is just for the special exception
Understood.
today. And as I mentioned, staff mentioned in the staff report, they are subject to all the regulation of the land development code for buffering and for walls and screening. So the site plan doesn't show everything, but that doesn't mean they are not subject to the code. So they will have to provide the buffer and walls per the land development code requirements.
At the development order?
At the development order stage, correct. With that said, staff hasn't received any correspondences from anyone in the area. And we reviewed this and they fully comply with the requirements of the land development code and the LEAP plan. Staff recommends approval subject to two small conditions we have.
Okay, you want to go over the conditions?
One is that basically they have to more or less comply with the with the site plan, substantial compliance with what they gave us. And number two is like 15-foot type C buffer with a solid wall no less than 8 feet in height, which is basically the code.
Well, my issue with condition 2 is that it does not reflect the code, because the condition here says that it's only necessary when it abuts residentially zoned property, but the code says when it's visible from residential use, which the property is visible from residential use across the street. The term is not abut in the code. So I would
We can change this.
change that to visible, and
Visible,
then it
that's
mirrors
fine.
the code.
That's fine.
Right, otherwise I need a variance to deviate from that.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can change it about to.
Or he may have an administrative variance available to him at the development order stage if he wants to relief from that. I just want to make sure it matches the code.
No, that's fine. We can change the abutting to visible. Can we do abutting or visible? So,
I'm just wondering if that is a restatement of code and not an enhancement of what code requires. Maybe we only need to refer to the site plan as the only condition, and then the code will take over the buffering and screening.
you basically want to get rid of condition number 2.
Well, I'm just asking if this is a restatement of the code, which would be applicable anyway. I don't know. I mean, are you worried that it'll be missed?
Well, the problem we are having when there's a master site plan attached, sometimes the reviewer, they just look at the site plan, says,
Yeah.
yeah, it is
Okay.
in compliance with the site plan.
Okay. Anything
And
further?
that's all. That's all I
Okay.
have.
Thank you. I just want to turn to the applicant for a minute and explain to you that the code says that when you have an open storage use, you need to have a buffer with a solid wall not less than 8 feet in height when the property is visible from residentially zoned property, right? And then that drops down to 6 feet in height if it's visible from a street right away. So I don't know how they're going to treat your eastern boundary. I don't know if they're going to treat it, it's visible from the right of way or it's visible from the residential. So I would prefer to have the language mirror the code when it says visible from residential. And if at the DO stage they say, this is set back so far, really we're going to treat it from the road, then it only has to be 6 feet. But I don't want to make that call without more testimony and evidence.
Right, understood. And what constitutes visible? Because in the retention pond, there's going to be an awful lot of trees there.
That's why.
Well, so, you could go like this and look through 5 lots.
I'm pushing that decision to the development order
Okay.
stage, okay?
Okay,
I'm sticking with the code for the purposes of this hearing. And
Okay.
if they, if they want to go out and say, oh, based on this distance or whatever, and you might even have administrative relief available to you. I mean, you're going to have to do the vegetated buffer and an opaque fence. The question is going to be, does it have to be 6 or 8 feet along that side? That's all.
Right, and that would be my question or comment to you is, what constitutes a visible? Because the first fence on the east side, I believe is going to be maybe 125 or 130 feet from the road.
This is a point you make to your development order reviewer.
Yep, perfect. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to open up the floor to the public now. If there's any members of the public here that would like to put comments on the record, please come to the podium. Your name is Bob Hamilton?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I own the residence directly across from this property. And when you say a wall, that breaks my heart. I look at the rendering that he has. I want to see this. This is beautiful.
The wall, the fence and wall would be right over there by where the parking is in the developed area.
So
Not there, no. It would be there.
he's going to have a building here, and that's all I would see is this and his shop. As far as going in here, even with the vehicles,
Right.
I would much rather have this business with a chain link fence where it is visible than this man lose the ability to do this. And maybe I end up with a chain coffee shop where I've got hundreds and hundreds of people a day in and out, in and out.
Right.
He'll be lucky to have 5 people an hour visit that place in an 8 to 10 hour frame during the day, as opposed to a coffee shop or a restaurant that is open 12, 14 hours, and I have to deal with all of that. I've been to his property, excuse me, I don't want to say his property, but his shop in Cape Coral, to which doesn't appear to be any bigger than this area, and it is very well kept. The man's immaculate. He's very neat about how he has things. I'm just so tickled after 19 years of having the homeless camp sit over there. They jump my fence, they're in my pool, and I know this when we're not home because we find cigarette butts and soda cans around the pool. It's like, I'm just tickled when I saw that rendering and I get to look at this beautiful retention pond, and in 5 years, that foliage will be so beautiful and filled out. It gives me, as the homeowner, something nice to look at. And also secures, and because we go with open storage, even if it was just an open storage lot, I'd be much happier having that there than a business that's going to have traffic for hours. I'm just looking at me as the homeowner trying to protect my interest, and I am the only one that looks straight across to that property. And I stand here just imagining this. Since the day I saw that first rendering, this is going to be gorgeous. I love it. And now I'm hearing something that somebody else's opinion is going to affect my home. And it just breaks my heart to lose this coming there. Thank you.
Thank you. That was Bob Hamilton. Okay, we're back to the parties. Any closing remarks?
No, ma'am.
Okay, this is a very straightforward case. You have the right zoning district. The use is not very intense. There's a lot of regulations that pertain to open storage in the Land Development Code. You'll be required to comply with that. You already have a development order underway for this, or not yet?
The development order, do I need to go up here?
Sure.
We've been working on the development order simultaneous with this, so that's already
Okay.
been worked on for 6, 7, 8 months. So I believe it's at the stage right now where they're waiting on us to
Get this approved?
get the zoning approved, because that's part of what's holding them up.
Okay, well,
So-
I'll try to move this to the front of the heap and get something out quickly for you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you everyone for coming today.
Thank you.